What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Dean Graziosi. Dean knows how to create success. From extremely humble beginnings, Dean started with a firewood business in high school to a collision repair shop and his first real estate deal before the age of 20. From there, he went on to create a multi-million-dollar real estate business, became a multiple New York Times bestselling author. He's spent 16 years on television as one of the most watched real estate and success trainers of our generation. Dean has truly maximized the success and profits in each of these endeavors along his evolution, and his businesses and brands have helped change countless lives. Dean is obsessed with sharing the success habits learned along this journey with the world. Dean has a new book out today called The Underdog Advantage, and in this episode we talk about that. We talk about how adversity gives us the ability to overcome, to create opportunity for ourselves, and truly live the life that we really want. I absolutely loved this conversation with Dean. It's real, it's raw. We had a great time, and there's a lot of great takeaways for you guys to hear in this episode, so you do not want to miss it. If you enjoy it, make sure you click it and share it out and do all the things, because this is an episode that cannot miss. Now, before we get to the episode, you guys know that Growth Now Movement Live is coming. It is literally so close, even though it seems far away. It's right around the corner. It'll be here before we know it. So make sure you join us. Head over to gnmlive.com, grab your tickets today, and join the incredible speaker lineup that we have coming in, like Brooks Holland, Natalie Jill, Anthony Trucks, and so many more. The people in attendance will be receiving a special message from Nick Santanastasso along with an incredible gift from him. He's actually giving away a free $500 course to every single person in attendance. You guys do not want to miss the energy that is going to fill this room. We're going to have 300 people from all over the world, so make sure that you are one of those 300. Head over to gnmlive.com and grab your tickets now. Now, without further ado, we're going to get into this episode with Dean Graziosi. Dean, welcome to the show, man.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's you're somebody that I've known for years, right? And everybody knows you as the real estate millionaire guy, you know, infomercials, all that fun stuff. But I'm excited to get you to know you on a more personal level. Kind of what's your journey been? How'd you get to this point? All that fun stuff. But why don't we take it back? How did you even begin this journey? Because really, you're in the self-development space now. Before you were in real estate, what was the transition?
Yeah. So before we start though, Justin, I just want to say, man, I commend you for putting yourself out there. The world needs this. Like, the world is in a place where we need real role models delivering real value, whether that's value that you've learned through years or you extracting it from people I see on the wall there, Ed Milet and other great people. Like, you're extracting their knowledge and sharing it. It's a really cool thing, man. And I want to commend you, and I want to commend everybody for listening. Most of the world complains that they can't get ahead, but they're not gaining the knowledge to actually get ahead. And if you're listening or watching, you are. And Justin, it's so great to have leaders like you getting knowledge and information out to the world. So awesome stuff. And as far as my journey, like, I'll share enough of my journey just so you guys get, like, if you don't already know who I am, you could be like, oh yeah, I should listen to this guy. I hate when someone gets on a podcast and gets that question and they spend 45 minutes talking about their life. It's like, I know you want to hear enough just to be inspired. So I'll just share that I would bet to say, no matter where you are at this time in your life, listening to me or watching us, I've been where you are. I've been broker than broke. I lived in a trailer park as a kid. That's not just a saying, that's reality. I remember having envy of other people getting ahead and other people going off to college when I wasn't, because I had dyslexia and didn't have money. I remember all of those things, but I also know what it's like to take that step and make my first sale and take that step. And people say, oh, don't be a dreamer, dude. You just work on cars. That's all you got. Or now you made it in real estate. You think you're going to influence and impact other people's lives. Come on, stop being a dreamer. Stop being a dreamer. You're going to do an infomercial. Oh my God, you're going to write a book. You are in special reading. Like, I know what all those feelings are. I know what it feels like to doubt yourself. I know what it's like to have inner insecurities, but I also know what it's like to break free from them and not listen to all the bullshit. I know what it feels like to be an underdog, to have nothing going your way and still get up and still try because you know there's something waiting for you. You're just driven. And I believe we are driven by accomplishment. And those that find a way to say, no, I don't need anymore, I'm happy where they are bullshitting themselves. And someday when they're 100 years old and look back and go, I played it safe. Yay. No, they're going to be like, I played it safe. God damn it. Why did I do that? Like, we are meant to play full out. We are meant to take risks. We are meant to share our gifts with the world. We're meant to grow. We're meant to have achievement. So I just want to share that I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to not be believed in. I know what it's like to feel like an underdog. I know what it's like to lose all your money and have sleepless nights and have a bleeding ulcer. But I also know what it's like that now my brand and my company have broke $1 billion in sales. I've been a multiple New York Times bestselling author when I couldn't barely read in 7th grade. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I'm in the best relationship of my life. I'm having a baby at 50 years old. I'm so excited. I'm in the best shape of my life. And it's not some magic wand. I'm not saying it to be, oh, look at me, you should be like me. I'm saying it because wherever you are, I promise you I've been there. I know how you feel. And I promise you it's worth every single bit of it to gain this knowledge, to execute it's courage, man. It's jumping out of the plane without a parachute and you're hoping you're going to grow wings on the way down. Like, that's how life can be. But man, the alternative is living someone else's life or building someone else's dream or living by someone else's rules. Hell no. So that's as quick as I can go. And where I'm at now, yes, real estate changed my life in my 20s. Legit. I was a broke kid, obsessed, found some no money down strategies, became a millionaire in my 20s because of real estate. But then I started sharing it. I did an infomercial in 1998, was my first infomercial. It was because I bought Tony Robbins' course off of TV. He changed my life. I wanted to do that for other people. And it was in the real estate space still own hundreds and hundreds of houses. But in that evolution, I realized that personal growth and mindset and being in the knowledge industry is really where I shine. Like, that's my life. I get to learn things and then share them and help other people. And I've been able to do that really well. So now I get to be in real estate, but also, my last book, Millionaire Success Habits, it's almost at 1 million copies. I feel blessed. It's impacting people all around the world. My new book, we'll talk about that later. The Underdog Advantage is coming out here soon. So excited about that. I partnered with my dear friend, Tony Robbins, the guy who changed my life. Now he's my dearest friend and partner in the Knowledge Business Blueprint. And we did the biggest launch in internet history. It's become a movement, helping people become influencers. So I'm just here to serve. So any knowledge that I've learned over 35 years of being an entrepreneur, anything you feel your listeners need, I'm here to serve, and there's no boundaries.
Yeah, man. And I love all that. Now, do you think that you said you thrive in this space of helping others? Do you think it's because you're more passionate about it than, say, real estate or something else? Or is it just something that you feel like you're really good at? Like, it's a personality thing?
Really, really great question. Here's what I believe all of us need. We all need a beacon of light, which is our hope, our next level, our 2.0 version of ourselves. We all need that beacon. We need to take it and set it out in front of us so we have something to chase. Because I would bet this with you as well, Justin, and most people listening, even though you're not where you want to be, I bet you've already outrun your goals. Like, how old are you, Justin?
35.
You're 35.
Yeah.
I would bet to say, I've read some of your amazing accomplishments. If you told that to your 18-year-old self, you're like, holy crap, I did all that. Like, you already outrun them. So what happens sometimes is people outrun their goals and then they're like, well, what's next? And what am I going to do? And how do I find the passion? How do I find the drive to keep going after accomplishments? Well, now I got some change in the bank. I got the house I wanted. I bought the car I wanted. What's next is you have to find the 2.0 version of you, make it where you focus all your energy on, like a ship in the storm. They focus on the light tower. You need to take that light tower and stick it out in front of you so you have something to focus on. So I would say that question is a really great question. And for me, that light tower, that next version of me, is the rest of my life is all about impact. Like, when I was in school, I decided not to go to college and I didn't take my SATs, and my guidance counselor said, wow, you're not going to college? And she literally was trying to talk me into going to get a minimum wage job at $6, $5.85 an hour at the only factory in my town. There was nothing in between. She didn't say you could be mentored by someone. You could learn from Tony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle and business leaders. You could go into the self-education world and go to seminars and read books. It was none of that. It was college or go work in the shittiest factory on the planet making plastic bags. So self-education changed my life. So now at this phase, it's all about impact until my last breath. It's like I want to give as many people the tools that we can. And that's why I write books to inspire that. And that's why we created a course to help others share what they're good at. Because how we fix this is we make self-education the new norm, right? We make it so if you have a strategy, a skill, an expertise, man, I think people should be obligated to share it. So that's how I got here. And I'm passionate as shit about it because I know it can change the world.
Yeah, and this is why I love what you're all about, right? So that's kind of my story. I had a 1.7 GPA in high school. My guidance counselor actually convinced the principals to pass me my junior year because she's like, if you don't pass him, he will drop out. So I got all the way through, didn't go to college, and then, kind of guided my own way. I got into self-development, started reading books, got mentors, and I was able to kind of build that whole path. Never in my life.
You're lucky to find that path, Justin. Most people aren't.
Right,
they get
exactly.
told you're not going to be something. They believe it because you were judged by an outdated scorecard. So that's why I love what you do, dude. We got to knock on more doors. We got to let more young people, old people know there's another freaking channel. Don't believe the hype. It's outdated. It's broken. Our education system is completely flawed. Yeah. It's based after something they created during the Industrial Revolution. And I'm not saying schools should die. They need to freaking upgrade. They need to level up.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, and I love all of that, man. So what is it? And I think so many people are like, I kind of know what I want to do, but they're a little afraid to do it. Right? They're afraid to make that jump, or they say, oh, I'm not good enough. What was it about you that you literally went, okay, well, and I know your backstory. So, right. So like you were running your dad's shop and then you kind of took it over and then you got into real estate and you did really successful in that. Now this, but every single time it was, I want to try something new. What was it that allowed you to say, I want to shift completely and jump into it without fear?
Really great question, man. And I would say this, there's a million different answers. Like you say it, and it's like the way my brain works, I feel like 100 different answers came in all at the same time. And I got to freaking say which one will make the most impact while we have this, 45 minutes or so together. I would say this is I believe in God, and everybody listening, believe whatever you believe in. That's great. Universe, God, karma, whatever. But I think at the end of our lives, if we were sitting with our maker and he said, Justin, I gave you these capabilities. I know your childhood was rough, but that was on purpose. So you'd be a stronger version so you could impact others, right? Would you love to be saying to your maker, I had all these ideas, I had all these dreams, but you know what? I played it safe and I lived a good life. My relationships were good. My income was good. I think I was a pretty good dad. I think our maker would be like, oh my God, with his hands in his head or her head saying, what the freak, Justin? I gave you all these capabilities. I put you on earth, which is the greatest place on the planet. It's a place of growing prosperity and abundance when you look to it. I gave you all this and you lived a freaking good life because you wanted to be safe. You wanted to play secure. How many times in your life, and I don't mean this to you, Justin, because I know your story too from my team extracting, and I read your bio and what you've done. I'm so impressed with all you've done. But what about the people right now that are saying, yeah, but I'm afraid or I'm scared? I get it. It's real. But at the end of your life, are you going to give a shit about that thing you're afraid of right now? You're going to be like, I'm so happy I lived a good life, a safe life. No, we were meant. I truly believe the biggest plight of our world, the biggest plight, and somebody could argue this with me, I believe it's knowing we have untapped potential. It's knowing you have more. If you're listening right now, you know you have more to give the world. You're just letting old teachers or parents or stories or inner insecurities hold you back from being the real you. The version where if you're with your maker at the end of your life, say, man, I failed a bunch of times, but I went freaking after it. I evolved as a person. I gained knowledge. I went after it. I failed. I learned. I went forward. I'm passionate about this. So please jump in and stop me.
I love it, man. This is great.
Think about this. My daughter is going to be 13 next month. And both my kids play baseball, softball, both pitch. So my daughter's about 9 years old, and she's playing in a championship game, and she killed it. The 5 games before this dude, I was out of my mind. She strike. She throws underhand, really fast. I don't even know how she does it. She gets this pretty much championship game. First 2 innings, crushes it. Third inning, she falls apart. Can't throw a strike, walks people. They lose the game. Now, fast forward, end of the game. My daughter's out behind my car, crying hysterical, saying, I let the team down. I'm terrible. I'm not that good. I want to quit. And she literally said to me, Dad, this is too much responsibility. I'm 9 years, she's probably 10. I'm 10 years old. This is too much responsibility for a 10-year-old. I don't want this pressure. I'm done. And I just listened to her. And what I realized, and this is hard to share with a 10-year-old, but I'm sharing this with everybody. I said, Bree, I know this is really hard, but I promise you'll learn more today because you went after it and failed than you were from the last 5 wins. And we started talking, and I said, babe, at the end of your life, I said this to her, would you be happy if you quit? And she's like, no. I said, so how do we learn something from this? How do we fix it? I said, because most people, this is going to happen when you start your new business. It's going to happen when the first hiccup comes in your relationship. This is going to happen when you become a parent and you screw up and you go to bed like, oh, freak. That's a moment for therapy in the future. Like all this shit's going to happen. In your life, do you want to say, hey, let me just back off, I'll not play, and I won't risk myself failing anymore and I'll play it safe? I said, do you think you'll be happy if you played it safe or you quit? And she's like, no. I said, so what can we take from this? What could you do to never feel this way again? And she was like literally crying. She's like, Dad, I don't need a lesson right now. I'm like, I think you do. I said, what could you do? And she's like, I could practice more. And then she stopped. She goes, wow, I haven't been getting, she was getting coaching, and she kind of was doing so good. She was like blowing off her coach. Yeah. She goes, I could get coached. I said, okay, how many times a week? She's like, 2. Can I get coached twice a week? And then she started, and she flipped it. And to this day, if I say, what's your most memorable game? Because she has a dad like me, and I was able to flip it just like you would do, and everybody listening, I was able to flip that moment for her to realize that her going after, her failing, her being vulnerable allowed her to level up to the next level. And in life, if you just look at that silly analogy I shared about my daughter, in life, we have that failing game, and so many of us go, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe my parents were right. I should just take that job. I should work for my cousin's company. I should not, maybe I could do the influencer thing or make an impact on people's lives when I'm a little smarter, when I have a little more money, when my kids are a little older, when my husband supports me. And that day will never come. You'll be 100 and you'll miss it. You will miss it. So if you could put yourself in that space of missing it, the regret of not taking action, you ever have anything, and it's the last thing I'll say, and I want to get to the next question. Do you ever have something in your life that you're a little scared of?
Yeah.
I'm using my son, bungee jumping, when he was too young to do it. We were in Mexico. He was supposed to be 10. He was like 6. I bribed the guy and put my son to death. It was this big thing. It goes 45 miles an hour. He was literally shaking. It's one of those moments that he'll probably be in therapy on. He's literally shaking. Dad, why am I shaking? And his hand is like if you can see the video, his hand is literally shaking. And he's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. And I knew it was too late. I knew he had to do it. And he did it. And on the other side, he was the most proud little guy you've ever seen in your life. He still talks about it. He's like, oh my God, I was so afraid. You know those moments in life you either push through, even though you're scared. It's jumping out of the plane, hoping to grow wings on the way down. It's courage. You have no proof it's going to work. You have nobody who believes in your ass, and you do it anyway. And on the other side, even if you fail, you're like, man, I did it. You have this feeling like I could get goosebumps thinking about it. Compared to the other side, when you're at the edge, you're harnessed up, you're going to go and you say, you know what? I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I'm fine. And you unharness life, bungee jumping, whatever it is you're doing, and you quit. That feeling of quitting, it affects your soul. And it gives you another level of being complacent, and then you get used to doing that. So what I'd say is, if you're on the edge, I know it's scary. I know there's no proof it's going to work. The only thing I could say is the alternative is living an okay life, and screw okay. We all deserve more than that.
Yeah. Now you talk about adversity and failure and all these things that could potentially pop up in our life as a gift, something that we're given to, whether it's to take out a gift that we're given earlier that we're not aware of or whatever. But in that moment of failure, in that moment of adversity, when we feel frozen, like your son when he was about to bungee jump, how can somebody in those moments, what are tools or special things they can unlock to overcome, right?
Yeah, I love when people ask me a tactical thing like that. That's cool. So what I think about legit is right now, I know you've heard this before. I'm going to ask you to hear it through fresh eyes. Usually what's stopping us from going is not the situation. We think it's the situation. It's the story about the situation, right? My son was thinking this harness could break. I could die. I could fall. Like none of that's true. That was just a story, right? Same in business. We start this story of like, I could do it, but my parents don't support me. I could do it, but my wife's not on my side. I could do it, but I don't really have money. I could do it, but maybe I'm not that smart. It's not the situation. It's the story of the situation. So the two things I would say is just in that moment of hesitation, whatever's coming into your mind on why you should hesitate or not doing it is the story that's actually holding you back. And I would prove that story's a lie. Like, I would do this, but I didn't go to college. Well, neither did Richard Branson and Tony Robbins and John Paul DiGiorio. None of them did. So find someone who didn't go to college, who had your adversity, and just switch that story. We have Google nowadays. Find someone just like I'm a single mom. My ex doesn't support me, and I'm juggling my kids back and forth to soccer practice. Okay, there is a woman who was a single mom, struggling like you, who did the same thing. So find proof of concept, which I still do to this day. But the second thing, and I think the most important thing is, Justin, is that story has enough juice, right? It has enough power right now to make you hesitate, right? So it's not, there's nobody holding the gun over your head. It's a story. It's in here. Even if it's scary, even if it seems real, it's still a story. So what I think about is in 5 years from now, when I'm looking in the mirror and I didn't go after this opportunity, if I say that story out loud, how is it going to feel then? Well, I would have went after it, but my family doesn't support me. And how's that story going to feel in 10 years? If you're looking in the mirror and say, I was going to start that influencer business, I was going to help people do what I do, I was going to write the book, I was going to create the course, I was going to do the mastermind, but, we have this crazy president, or I don't have any money to start. How will that story feel if you tell it to yourself for a decade? It makes me want to vomit. Yeah. Like I've trained my subconscious to think about that. I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm going after this shit today. And then I'm not saying once you decide to just jump out on the ledge. The world has changed. When I was a kid and going after it, the only way to get knowledge was to physically read a book. There was no audiobooks. There was no iTunes. There was no Google. There was no YouTube. There was none of it. There was no faith. You couldn't find someone like you, Justin, and go gain knowledge. I had to try to find a mentor in my town. There wasn't even TV shows about success or mentorship. It just didn't exist. In today's world, you resonate with Justin, follow him and gain that. Not like you have the opportunity to say, okay, I'm not telling myself this shit ass story. I'm surely not going to let this story hold me back. Let me go get the damn capabilities. Because in life, we know where we are and we're not happy with that. That's okay. You should never be happy with where you are. And we know where we want to go, right? If you have a know where you are, know where you want to go. The only thing, the bridge to get there are the capabilities. So it's the how. So just go get the how. Once you decide to do it, don't go on your own. Don't learn through trial and error. Find somebody who's already done it and rob their knowledge. Cut a check for their knowledge. Like that's the fastest way. So that's some tactical things that I use.
No, and I love all of that stuff, and when I look at you and your story and everything that you've done, I just see what we define as success over and over and over again. And even now in your marriage, right? You figured that part out. And now relationships are happy, healthy, and all the strong things that are in your life, right? So congratulations on all that. Congratulations on the new marriage and the baby and all that stuff. But what are the differences between success and failure to you? Because I've heard so many times that it is literal degrees of separation between success and failure. So for you, what is a couple of things that define the differences?
So really great question, man. I mean it, dude. I really love your questions.
Thank you.
It's changed probably in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and now I'm in my 50s. It's legit changed. And I would say failure to me, probably my 20s and 30s was I said I was going to do it. It didn't happen. I freaking failed and beat myself up over it. And then I wouldn't be successful if I didn't find a way to learn from it, even in my 20s. Like I found a way, even miserably upset, grumpy, feeling bad for myself, feeling like the quintessential underdog. Like I knew this was going to happen. All those shitty things come in, but I must have found a way to convert that. What failure means to me now, being an entrepreneur for all these years and just having more time on this earth, and being in business for myself since 17, cutting firewood. it's really just, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's something my buddy and partner, Tony Robbins, says is that life happens for us, not to us. If you could remember one sentence, remember that today. Take what serves you from this interview and throw the rest away. I hope that serves you. Is what if life was completely designed for us the way it's supposed to make us have the grit, to have the stamina, to pay the success tax, to learn to go to our next level. And most people, when they get that, they just resort back to who they were. Some people, and you know this, and you'll see this with your friends, dude, you're going to have friends that are still the same. Let me ask you, you're 35. 35.
I know I look 32. Thank you. 35.
Yeah. You have some friends. Do you still have some friends from high school?
Yeah, a few. Not many, but yeah.
Okay. Are there some people you went to high school that are still the same person you went to high school with?
Yeah.
Haven't changed a thing about it. They go to the same bar, drink the same stuff, or say the same stuff, still talk about the good old. And it doesn't make anybody better or worse, but along the way, people will stick at certain levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will stick at certain levels, and then they'll be there forever, where simultaneously you're growing continuously. You're growing and becoming a better version of you, right? It's because you're failing. Subconsciously, you're failing, you're learning from it and still going after it. And I would say that life happened for them, but they hit a certain point where something went off and decided to just stay there. So for me, at this phase of my life, whenever shit goes sideways, I still don't like it, dude. I'm not like, oh, I'm glad that $1 million deal fell through. I'm still pissed. I still want to evaluate what I could have done better, change. But what I also know is, like, I say to myself that mantra. Okay, this happened for me. What am I going to learn? Let's dissect this right now. How can I become a better human? Listen, I never talked about relationships because I wasn't in a great relationship. With my ex, she's a great lady. She's one of my best friends now, incredible mom, but we weren't supposed to be together. We ended up getting pregnant, and we decided we were both from divorced families. We're just going to stick it out. And I sucked at it. And when we got a divorce, it sucked because I'm a really engaged dad. I do Sunday meetings. I cook my kids breakfast every day. I take them to school. I go to every basketball, every football, every baseball. I coach. Like, I'm an engaged dad. And the thought of only seeing them half the time, dude, it ripped me to shreds, right? And I lived with it and I dealt with it for a long time until finally I couldn't. But what I realized was that I would never find next level relationship. I'd never find real love in my life. I'd never set an example for my kids. I wouldn't be a better version of me. And what if that happened for me so I could meet the love of my life that I'm in? I'm in the best relationship of my life. It gets better every single day. If I didn't learn what not to do, if I didn't go through that experience of that failure, right? I'm supposed to be the success guy. I failed, I feel like, on my kids at some level, but I really didn't. Because now everybody's in a better space. My ex is in a great relationship. I'm in the best relationship. My kids are thriving, and they see an example of love. Now, I only brought up my personal story because that was a painful situation strictly about my kids. Mm-hmm. I brought that up because now that I went through it, the only reason I got through it is because while I was going through, I'm like, this is happening for me. I don't know why this is happening for me. And now I work on our relationship every day. We're more than 3 years in, and we got the best relationship on the planet, and we work on it every single day, and we're not letting it die. I mean, every day we feel like we just met. And it's only because I went through that and I learned from it. I couldn't be this man without that happening. So now I have to look to God, the universe, whatever you believe in, and say, thank you for that situation because of that. And I just know the older I get, the quicker I'm thankful for the failures. So when you say the difference between failure and success, I know that was a long answer to a short question, is they're all starting to blend together because they used to seem a mile apart. And now I realize this failure is just a step so I can get higher so my win is even greater.
Yeah. And, people that listen to the show know that I love the phrase life is happening for you, not to you. To get out of that. Yeah. Which actually, it's the first time I heard it was from Ed Milet. And we talked about that. Yeah. And he got it from Tony because I know he's a big Tony guy. And I was like, that's a game changer. And I almost feel like that's always been my mindset, but there was no words that I'd put to it at some point. Right. So like, I realize what I'm doing now, none of this would have happened if my mom didn't pass away in the manner that she did. And I look at that and I go, holy crap. Like I could have sat there and said, why is this happening to me? And played the victim. Right. And so instead of taking it and going, well, it was me, I've made it my impact, my driver, my force. Right. And what is it about certain people that can get into that mindset versus the people that live in that victim mindset? How do they get out of that?
Really great question again, dude. And I would say why I love doing interviews like this and I love what you're doing is I think sometimes it's just letting people be aware that you have permission to think that way. I mean, just being honest, I'm so sorry about your story with your mom, but I don't know how you were raised. But my dad, who I spent most of my childhood, my parents split when I was 3 and I lived back and forth. But then about 11 years old, I moved in with my dad. Love my dad. And I'm so grateful for all the good and the bad, right? But my dad lived in a place of victimhood. Like I don't have money because he was the youngest of 11. His father physically abused him really bad. Like lived in a small town. My dad, all of those disadvantages to him, they were real. And a result of it was he never made more than 30 grand in his life, always struggled with money until I retired him 20 years ago. I retired my dad. So I've been giving my dad a check every week for 20 years. I had the same circumstance as my dad. I grew up in the same town with no money, with like divorce, craziness. The only difference was that I was lucky enough to have a different shift in thinking. I looked through what not so clear in my 20s. I didn't know all this and I wasn't so into personal growth, but I found a way to say, this is happening for me. I'm going to make it happen. And then in my 20s, I got Tony Robbins' course and legit, it anchored in all the stuff I thought because my dad, my family, my parents, everybody thought I was nuts the way I used to go after stuff, the way I used to think. And then all of a sudden I just got this training from Tony and I believed him without question. It was like, I listened to every one of those. It was so long ago. I was listening to it on a Sony Walkman with cassette tapes on my side. The Walkman was this big. You guys don't realize how you got everything on your phone. I had big pads in my ears and it changed my life because I started believing that. And I've been blessed to help other people see it who never thought they could. And in fact, if the best compliment I could ever get when I die someday is Dean really helped people who didn't think they could change their life change. It's easy to take a Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, anybody you love. It's easy to take a fan of them, a fan of Ed Milet off his podcast and convert them into buying Millionaire Success Habits or my new book, Underdog Advantage. What I hope is someone's listening right now. It's like, it's easy to convert somebody who's already living it. I hope to get people who are watching or listening right now saying, I don't know if it's mindset. I just need the tactical way to make money. I hope someone can say right now, you know what? Maybe life did happen for me. Maybe that abuse I experienced, maybe the divorce I went through, maybe the having no money, no experience, nobody supporting me. Maybe that was all designed for me so I could be the man I am or the woman I am today, listening to this right now. And you can make a shift just like that. Like that's a Tony Robbins thing too. It's like you think about making a change forever, but change happens in a second. What if right now you just decided that all the crap you went through happened exactly the way it was supposed to, so you can be the person you are today, in the moment you are, in the place you are. And whether that's true or not, dude, when I feel that way, I don't know, Justin, you got to feel the same way. When I tell myself that story, I just feel better.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason to punish ourselves. Like I feel better. I feel empowered. The abuse I went through as a child, that was designed so I could be more empathetic. Trying to read my dad so he wouldn't get upset made me a better salesperson. Like it all happened for me perfectly. And that's what I'm just going to keep telling myself.
Yeah, for sure, man. Absolutely. And the nice part about this podcast is I get to have conversations with people like you and what the world defines as success. But I'm curious from you, what is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that for yourself?
Really great question. So success means to me, what probably everybody will say the same thing, but I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, whenever I want. And to me, that's not... At this phase of my life, it's just being a really engaged dad and a good husband and being able to impact people's lives. Like my life really resists. I don't do a lot of the fancy stuff people would think you do. And I feel blessed financially. I'm set. I'm good. I live in my dream house. I get to do really cool stuff. I have great friends. But to me, success means that at 3:00 when I get my kids, when it's my day, at 3:00 I'm waiting outside their school with all the other moms waving and I pick up my kids. Yesterday, when my son had his game 45 minutes from here, I just drop what I'm doing at work, get in the car, and go be there. Success means that I could go on a date or take my wife anywhere I want, when I want to do it. So that I would die for that, right? I don't like playing by anybody else's rules. I even teach my kids that. I think a lot of the rules that are created in school and structure, it's flawed. It doesn't work in the real world. My son tells me he's got to go to the bathroom. My son's one of the greatest kids in the world. He's got a huge heart, empathy. He's never been in trouble, straight A student, follows the rules. And last week he's like, Dad, I had to go pee so bad because I forgot to go at lunch. And I asked my teacher and she said, no, you can't. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't? I said, I have hundreds of employees. If an employee in a meeting said to me, hey, Dean, I got to run the restroom. I'm like, go, you don't have to ask. I said, that doesn't equate to the real world. I said, next time you got to go to the bathroom, you just get up and go. He's like, I'll get in trouble. I'm like, you get in trouble with me. I don't care what they do at school. Like, I hate freaking stupid rules. I hate the fact in school that if you collaborate with somebody, it's cheating. In the real world, when I don't know something, I collaborate. Justin, if you're better at me on being on stages or the things you do, I'm going to call you and you're going to tell me it's not cheating. That's how you get better. Right. You can't be great at everything. I suck at grammar and English. I hire an editor. But I'm really good at math. You want math? Come to me. You want to learn a prepositional phrase? You go to someone else. So, like, collaboration is cheating. Wanting to go to the bathroom, and I hate rules. I don't follow anybody else's rules. I make up my own rules. Some people listening right now, I know this goes against the grain, but I don't care. And I want to live a life where I do what I want, when I want to do it. I want to be the dad I want to be, the husband I want to be. I want to live the way I want to live. Last 3 years, I've worn nothing but T-shirts because I want to.
Right.
Right. So when you say what's success, that's success to me. Having the ability to make choices and take care of the people I love. And I love when people say money doesn't solve problems. That's bullshit. Checks solve problems. When my family doesn't feel good or sick, I get the best doctors in the world in 3 seconds. I don't have to wait in line. I don't have to wait 3 months to get an appointment. I have a private doctor that can see my family, the people I love in a moment. Like, that stuff is important to me. So everybody's got their own definition, and I think everybody should describe what success means to them, not just the car and the house and the money. Like, what does success really mean? Like, if you don't have to worry about anything, what does that look like? And that's more important to me than anything. I know my parents, if they need something, there's nothing that they won't get. And then how do I define that each day?
You're like, what are things you do, rituals and things you do during the day?
I have a morning routine that I do. You might have heard me share it in other podcasts, so I don't want to be redundant. But in the morning, if I follow, I try to set my day up for offense. That's the way I look. I frame it defense and offense. A lot of times we wake up in the morning and we check our phone and we check an email or a text. I'm like, oh shit, that didn't go right. That didn't work. And to me, that puts me in a framework of defense. Like, I'm trying to fix stuff all day. And you can't move the needle in your life by playing defense. You can't win a football game if you're just defense and you didn't have an offensive line, right? So how do I set up for offense is try to protect my confidence. So in the morning, I try not to check messages. Instead of checking messages, I practice a little gratitude. Like, what am I grateful for? Everybody knows that, but I kind of lower the bar. Like, I'm just grateful to wake up. I'm grateful that my sheets feel good. I'm grateful it's sunny. I'm grateful it's raining. Like, I just try to put my mindset in a gratitude framework. I think of a couple of wins I had the day before. Like, what went good yesterday? Because we all think about the shit that went wrong. Right. So I think about the stuff that went good. And then I think about the things I want to go good that day. And if I do that little ritual, don't check my phone, a little bit of gratitude, what went good yesterday? I'm like, oh shit, I accomplished a lot yesterday. And like, what do I want to do today? Oh yeah, I want to conquer those two things. If I do that in the morning, and then usually I'll go to the gym, go run, go do something. If I do that, I set my day up for offense with a level of confidence that's really empowering to me. And it helps sets my day up for success. Because if we have a day of success, then we have a week, then we have a month, then we have a year. So yeah, that's one of the rituals. And the other thing too is I make sure I'm living by my rules. Like, this is a hard one for everybody, but I don't do anything I don't want to do anymore. Nothing. I don't go to certain weddings if I don't want to go. I don't go to a cousin's wedding if I don't know them and I just get the invite. I don't go. I don't go to fundraisers. I send the check, but if I don't want to go, I don't want to go. If I would rather go to a baseball game to watch my son with my wife rather than go into a fancy thing where it's an opening of something where it's going to be, if I don't want to go, I don't go. I don't go see family members I'm not close with. I don't do anything I don't want to do. Nothing. Zero. Life's too short. And that offends some people. It does. I'll be honest with you. But I have to live my life for my kids, my family, and the impact I want to make. And yeah, I'd say those 2 things, 3 things: rules, morning ritual, set your day up for success, play offense, and live life on my terms.
Dude, I love all that stuff. So obviously today is the day, since this is coming out December 3rd, along with your book. Let's talk about that. Where did the idea of the Underdog Advantage come from? Obviously you've lived it. I'm sure that's where it came from, but why is it so important for you to write that book and give it to the world?
Yeah, I think okay. So do you ever feel like an underdog?
Yeah.
Okay. And some of the story I know, you were a hell of an underdog. To be where you are, you did amazing things, dude. You subconsciously, or through books or through the right mentors, you found a way to shift those things that most people look as a disadvantage, losing your mom, all the things that you went through. You found a way to use it as fuel. And most people don't. Most people, it's their anchor. And they don't realize it's a subtle anchor. It's not like, oh, you lost your mom, you should just give up on life. It's like, no, I lost my mom, but yeah, it's the economy's not. And then I didn't go to school, and I had trouble reading, and I had 7th grade reading level and 12th grade. And those stack up just enough where people go, yeah, I wasn't meant to do more. And everybody feels like an underdog. And what I just wanted to do is, and I geeked out on this. I did so much research. I listened to a 42-hour book on George Washington, who was the consummate underdog. Like, I know that guy was we know him as the founder of our country in America here. And we know some of the stuff, but man, if you knew what that guy went through, being the youngest of 5, by the time it got to him, there was no money left. Then his dad died. So he was the only one, didn't go to college. He worked his ass off. He had a mom that never supported him. He could never do anything good enough. Then he gets in for the colonies under the British Army. He gets to be, a ranking officer. But since he was born in America, they looked at him as shit. So his salary was half. They gave him the worst jobs. They would literally do meetings, and he'd go to walk in the meeting. They'd close the door and say, no, you were born. You're not allowed in this room. Like, everything you could possibly imagine, not having the money, not having anything. And you would just think, no way this guy amounts to anything. He's got so many disadvantages. He's the quintessential underdog. And what I identify in my book are the 7 underdog advantages. You think they're your disadvantage, but they're actually the fuel that make the most successful people in the world successful. So when they told him he couldn't, I call it the power of you can't. When they didn't see him coming, they underestimated. All underdogs are underestimated. All underdogs are resourceful as shit because we don't have money. We don't have support. We don't have privilege, right? All underdogs don't have resources. They become resourceful as shit. Like, if someone said to my kids, like for my kids, for everybody, if someone said, hey, I could give you resources, I give you $1 million, or I could give you the gift of resourcefulness. Take the resourcefulness. The $1 million will go away. Being resourceful means you'll always land on your feet. So I identified, through going through history and studying the most successful people in the world and my own stories, I identified what I think are the 7 underdog advantages that most people think are disadvantages. So if you take George Washington, again, I geeked out on that as one of the things I did for research on this book. But along the whole way, just think about this. Like, instead of looking at it as a historical figure like this guy, George Washington, put yourself in these shoes, right? Always treated, always underestimated. Finally decide that the American Revolution is going to happen. They asked George Washington to be the lead. Now, this guy is the most unqualified for that position, but he has to be resourceful. He's got something to prove. They're not going to see him coming. So just fast forward all the craziness. Now, the Revolutionary Army, they have a little battle in Boston. The King of England says, oh, I'm not going to put up with this unrest. At the time, England is the strongest country in the world, strongest army. Nobody messes with them. They go in, wipe you out. So there's a little uprising. King of England says, send 30,000 troops to New York City, wipe out this revolt, do it fast, do it aggressively, do it bloody. They send 20,000 English troops, 10,000 Hessians. They're hired guns from Germany. They are just ruthless killers, right? They come to New York. George Washington has 6,000 ragtag army. They got enough gunpowder for one shot each. A third of them don't have shoes. A third of them don't have jackets. They're freezing. It's around Christmas time. They're walking in. They said that they would paint pictures of the bloody trail because people didn't have shoes and their feet were bleeding from cold. So now you got the greatest army in the world, 10,000 Hessians. They come to New York. George Washington's army, as an underdog, tries to take them on, right? They wipe them out so quick. They take Staten Island, Long Island, take Brooklyn, they take Queens, they take Fort Lee, New Jersey. They wipe them out in moments. They're down to like 4,000 people. The Hessians literally bayonet all the captives because they just want to make an example out of them. Then the British government says, hey, a British army says, hey, if you come on our side, we'll forgive you and we'll give you money. So then another 1,000 go over to the other side. So now George Washington, instead of looking at it as George Washington, picture you. You just got your ass kicked. The hope of this country is on your shoulders. People doubted you. Now you're down to 3,000 people. You got 30,000 soldiers chasing you through New Jersey, right? I'm sharing this because if you don't know the ending, if I didn't know the ending, I'm like, there's no way this guy makes it. It's done. It's over. They squashed this little flea, right? But again, and this is the stuff that I cover in the book, is he turned a disadvantage into an advantage. So now he's in New Jersey. The Hessians cross the Delaware. They're thinking it's Christmas Eve night. They're like, he's done. He's over. So they party and they celebrate Christmas. And there's no way that George Washington's in the middle of the night at the coldest time of the year with icebergs are going to cross the Delaware. George Washington takes 3,000 beat up troops with barely any guns, crosses the Delaware in the middle of the night. 3,000 people in rowboats, one at a time, 5 at a time, 20 at a time, crosses. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, 3,000 beat up, underestimated underdogs take on 10,000 of the strongest army in the world. And in 45 minutes, they take them. They take their guns, they take their food, they take their ammo, they march up Princeton, win their second battle. That's the beginning of the end. 7 years later, we built the greatest country in the world. Now, the only reason I shared that is because nobody believed in this guy. The reason George Washington, he literally wrote before he crossed the Delaware, that's when he wrote the famous line, victory or death. He burned the freaking boats, literally, figuratively. It's like he was told he wasn't good enough by his mom. He didn't go to college. All his brothers did. The British government and army told him he was born in America. He's not smart enough. He can't do it. The Congress never gave him enough money to build a real army. He had no bullets. They didn't see him coming. He had the power of you can't. All of these things could have been the reason they said, that guy George Washington tried, but it's okay. There's no way he could have done it. No, he turned all those disadvantages into his underdog advantages, and he freaking nailed it, and we have the country we have today because of that. So how is that relevant? Because all of us feel like underdogs. All of us have disadvantages, and the successful people I've interviewed and the people I've read about and the people I know, they found a way to shift it where most of the world doesn't know how. And I wanted to write a book to empower every single human being on this planet to go, yeah, this is what I was born with, but I'm going to turn this into rocket fuel rather than kryptonite. And that's the book. And I'm so excited. Millionaire Success Habits is on fire. It's 3 years in. I was in Amazon last week with my wife, and it's still on the bestseller rack 3 years in. But I think this Underdog Advantage is going to surpass it. So I'm excited.
That is really cool. I mean, it sounds amazing. I actually just, as we were talking, got an email with the PDF version of it. So,
great.
Cool. I can't wait to dive in.
Please read it and let me know, because I think the first chapter alone, you're going to freak out.
I love it, man. I'm excited for it. So obviously we know about going to Amazon and getting it. Is there a specific place you want people to go get it?
Yeah, if you want to go to Amazon, I think it's at Amazon for $19.95. But we have a link at deansbook.com, deansbook.com. I bought the books. I asked people to cover the shipping and handling. So if you go to deansbook.com, I think it's $7.95. We'll send you the hardcover, and I think you'll be really happy that you went.
Awesome, man. I absolutely love it. So obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. I wrap up every single interview with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Biggest moment of growth. Facing my biggest fear. Hands down. People used to say, your next level of life lives on the other side of your biggest fear or your biggest obstacle. And that was something I shared, and I taught that to people on stage. And I was scared a lot of times in starting a business and doing a lot of things. I was scared to death. And I knew that to be true. But my biggest fear was putting my kids through a divorce when I went through it. And I avoided it, even though I should have been out of my relationship 10 years prior. I avoided it because of that fear. And it just proved to be so true. I have to say, I had counseling through this whole thing with my buddy, Tony Robbins. And he said, dude, there's another level of you. And I know you can't see it. I know you can't feel it. You just have to believe me that it's true. There's a better version of you on the other side of facing this. And it was my scariest thing in life. I had anxiety. I was worried. I was stressed out of my mind for my kids. And I faced it. And I went on blindly. And on the other side, I'm a better person. I'm a better human. I make better decisions. I have more empathy. My companies are growing. My relationship's thriving. I'm a better dad. It's just proved over and over to be true. And that's everybody I'm sharing with. That thing that you've been avoiding, the thing you're afraid of, face it, decide today, because your next level lives on the other side of it.
Awesome. Dean, this conversation has been amazing. And I want to thank you for not only living and learning, but then sharing what you've learned, because that's what moves the needle for everybody else, man. Just thank you so much.
I appreciate it, dude. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.